name is Mary Wanjadho. I'm the Managing Director and founder of Cityscape Rent Services Limited. We are a social impact organization where we provide commercial cleaning services and maintenance for offices and buildings. We leverage our core business to address social and environmental issues. And Cycling to Work project is an amazing project, and we're very excited for rolling out this first pilot project. And some of the benefits of this project is, the first one is about health.
Our Cycling to Work project was signed off by the CST sustainability team and approved and commissioned by our CEO. The vision of the project is to see that cycling becomes a norm.
Our SDG 3 on health and well-being of workers at workplace. And we thought that this project will actually help people be happy, mental health issues. When it comes to health, I think this is one of the projects that will really boost the health. It's a form of exercise.
And by encouraging cycling to work, we're able to save on time, finances, and also keep fit. Because we can't say how many people are able to afford going to the gym, because majority of the people either live below a minimum wage or are within the middle income bracket.
The way Cityscape views a bicycle is very much in the same lens as Buffalo Bicycles. It's a simple tool, it's a basic tool, yet a very innovative way to be able to respond to the needs of the day. We're very happy to be able to partner with Mary as well as Gakenya to be able to care for the employees and be able to ensure that during these very difficult times, we have sustainable modes of transportation to and from work.
The other thing is about the transport. Public transport has become challenged, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic. So with this kind of pandemic, you never know what will happen with the public transport. Sometimes they are providing hand sanitizers, other times they are not providing hand sanitizers.
But we're here to prove that cycling to work, to school, to wherever you want to go, gives you the flexibility, the time management you need to get wherever you need to go.
A lot of the efforts through this partnership will also ensure that employees do realize additional savings as they commute and as they engage with their work.
Another thing about this project is about the collaborations that we have had with Buffalo, Kenya Bicycles. This type of collaboration is the best ever, because the world is full of problems, and with this world's biggest and most pressing challenges, the world that are worth solving cannot be solved by one person. So when people come together, great things happen.
A lot of the ethical practices resonate quite closely with our core values as an organization: anti-corruption, care for the environment, climate control, and many more others. And for us, we're looking at this as the beginning of a very fruitful and long-term partnership.
So sometimes cycling may seem as a form of a luxury for some. So when we say that we are cycling to work and meeting the Climate Action SDG 13, when we encourage everyone to cycle, we have less carbon emission, we have fresher air. Even the issue of smog within the city becomes a distant memory. So while we look to cycle and make it, a normal thing for everyone, we're working hard to make sure that we survive. We're creating the platform, safeguarding our planet for our children and the future generations, so that we leave a legacy behind where we safeguard, because we have to protect the lands that feed us, that sustain us. Why not give back to them? So cycling to work is a great way to go green as an organization. Even for those guys seeking to start in a small way, cycling is the first step to taking it. We don't have to do large gestures to show that we are safeguarding the planet. It's all in the small things that we do, the small steps that we take that create an effect, a domino effect, where we see it becoming larger and larger, and you see the impact will be seen gradually. The last SDG that this project will be tackling is partnership for the goals. While sourcing for these bicycles and the suitable partners for this project, we look for partners who also share our values, bettering the community, meeting the sustainable goals, and basically giving back to society. Hence how we selected our partners, from the bike suppliers to the people doing our documentation of this, to our people who do our branding, even the safety gear that we have on, as you can see. We made partners with people who share the dream and the vision and the values that we have. To begin with, we have Buffalo. They're the bike suppliers we got, and they share our values because they have similar projects, but to empower the girl child and also to make cycling a way of life. We have End Vision. He covers our documentation. He also has been a beneficiary of cycling to wherever he goes. He's been able to save so much, and he says the benefits of cycling cannot be described. You just have to see them for yourself as a person. Experience it. Cycling is an experience, is what I got. We also have other partners who chose to walk with us the journey. We also have our partners, our stakeholders, our clients, our employees who offered to start with us for the pilot project. We do not take that for granted because in some ways they become our partners. Without them, we'd not be able to put this idea into practice. An idea was born, we initiated, did documentation, talked to them, and they agreed to begin the journey with us. And having them start this project is the beginning of something that we hope will be a domino effect for everyone. We start with the industry, we start with the cleaning industry, the service industry generally, where we see most of these people are either casuals or are paid a wage that most times is not a minimum wage. That is what we want to start with. So that once these people are able to depend on themselves and give them this resource that they have, we're able to comfortably say that, yes, we got this covered. We can move on from this. It's also a way of giving hope that you can depend on yourself, that you have a resource with you, that you can be creative with what you have, just creating abundance within your space. That is what we seek to do with this project. And after that, we can see we keep rising higher and higher, encouraging corporations, private businesses, encouraging government entities to join us in this journey of cycling to work. That is the vision that we have as Cityscape Trends Sustainability.
In 2015, the member states of the United Nations agreed to work towards a future without poverty, towards a sustainable planet living in peace and prosperity. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, were adopted to provide a framework for universal goals and targets to be achieved by 2030. CAF America was the first to join in this cause by pledging to code every grant that we make to track to the SDGs and to report on the role that philanthropy can play in helping to advance the Sustainable Development Goals. It is our pleasure to share with you the very first SDG Giving Landscape Report, an insight into philanthropic support of the SDGs worldwide. And to help me with this task is CAF America's Vice President of Thought Leadership, Kinga Ila. Kinga, welcome.
Thank you, Ted. Happy to join you here today.
Kinga, what are the 5 most funded SDGs in this report, and why are they significant?
The 5 SDGs that received the most funding throughout the period, this entire period from donors in aggregate, were quality education, SDG 4, good health and well-being, SDG 3, sustainable cities and communities, SDG 11, Life on Land, SDG 15, and No Poverty, SDG 1. It is noteworthy that donors supported a very broad range of issue areas, and as a result, all 17 SDGs actually have been impacted through the funding provided over the time period covered in this report, which is from the beginning when the goals went into effect, January 2016, through April 2019. The other thing which I wanted to highlight is education was the issue area that mobilized the largest amount of charitable funding overall, as well as on an annual basis. The report follows the landscape, how the landscape changes throughout the years, and education came in second only in 2017. In that year, SDG 3, good health and well-being, was number 1. Another thing which I would mention is that overall, the lowest level of philanthropic support was directed toward 4 SDGs, SDG 6, which is clean water and sanitation, SDG 7, which is affordable and clean energy, SDG 13, climate action, and SDG 14, life below water. So these SDGs remained the lowest throughout this entire period, and in this regard, actually the report helped us, and the research was very useful to identify funding gaps.
Kinga, you mentioned that quality of education, SDG 4, is extremely important throughout the entire report. I wanted to ask you to focus on quality of education, and in this report, there's so much information that we can learn about each of the SDGs. But if you could focus on how this report focuses in on a specific SDG like quality of education, and how much information we can learn about philanthropy from various vantage points.
Of course. The report provides a detailed look into the overall support directed toward each SDG. It takes a closer look at how funding changes year over year, which I just mentioned earlier, starting in 2016 when the goals entered into force, through 2019. It provides the average and the median grant amounts for each, and it breaks down the funding by source. So you can see basically the distribution of funding per corporate donor, foundation, and individual donors. And drilling even deeper into corporate funding in particular, the report also reveals the profile of corporate donors providing the highest level of support per SDG, based on their industry, the company size, and years in business.
It's a lot of information, Kinga, and as we were focused in on quality of education, SDG number 4, which was number 1 overall, this was not necessarily the case for every region. How does the SDG landscape report help us understand regional variations of philanthropic support?
Indeed, quality education was number 1 overall. But it's also interesting that it is the only issue area that appears among the top 5 most supported SDGs in all 9 regions explored by the report. The regional part of the report, of course, drills down further and tries to identify the diversity when we look at these specific regions. We looked at Africa, Central America and the Caribbean, Europe, North America, Oceania, Russia and Central Asia, South America, Southern and Eastern Asia, and then Western Asia. Among the SDGs that receive the most funding on a regional scale, we see Zero Hunger, which is SDG 2, Gender Equality, SDG 5, Decent Work and Economic Growth, SDG 8, Industry, Innovation and Infrastructure, SDG 9, and Reduced Inequalities, SDG 10. It's to be noted that these SDGs are actually not represented among the top overall 5. So the regional landscape, if you will, provides a closer look, and it shows this diversity. And similarly, actually, to what I described earlier about the more detailed look per each SDG, we have done that in each region as well. So, for example, if we look at Central America and the Caribbean as a region, the detailed snapshots present the 5 SDGs that receive the most support overall, but it's presented side by side with the top 5 per each year. So you see how the landscape actually changes. We provide the average grant amount in that region. We provide the breakdown per funding source, which I described earlier. And as a unique feature, actually, on the regional landscape, the report identifies the SDG that shows the largest increase in support from 2016 to 19.
Kinga, you're certainly giving us a sense of just how rich this report is and how it is filled with data on a regional level when looking at the SDGs. When we look at different types of donors and support from different types of SDGs, what can we learn about philanthropic interests? Say of corporations, if we were to drill down into corporate support, just as you have looking at regional aspects and how they relate to support of SDGs.
Yes, the data shows that all donors are committed to health and education, fighting poverty, making our cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. We also see priority goals, though, which are unique to each donor group. So in case of corporate donors, decent work and economic growth, SDG 8, stands out. In case of foundations, peace, justice, and strong institutions, SDG 16. And in case of individual donors, life on land, which is SDG 15. But more specifically about corporate giving, what you were asking me, the data shows that funding goes to a very wide range of SDGs. So when we looked at giving per industry, 11 goals are represented across the top 5, supported by the various industries. And then an even closer look at the most supported issue areas per industry confirms that corporations are working towards aligning their business and CSR strategy to the SDGs. I can give you an example. Most corporate funding from the agriculture sector, for example, was directed to supporting zero hunger, which is SDG 2, decent work and economic growth, SDG 8, responsible consumption and production, SDG 12, peace, justice, and strong institution, SDG 16, and life on land, SDG 15. We can see the alignment with the scope of the industry, agriculture.
Kinga, in addition to the Sustainable Development Goals, which you've clearly made a case for why these are global goals, there's another topic that has certainly become very global, and that is COVID-19 and how that has affected life worldwide. How is philanthropy also involved in COVID-19, and how do these topics come together?
What we've seen in the private sector's response to the pandemic has been truly inspirational, Ted. CAF America's recent survey of corporations shows the extent to which corporate America has stepped up during this critical time of need, supporting their employees, their communities, and really channeling vital funding to relief efforts worldwide. We have done a series of surveys and reports on this topic, and the corporate donor response during this time period was remarkable. I'll give you a few examples. Definitely companies are giving more. 72% of the corporate respondents increased their contributions to charities during the pandemic. This is what the data shows. Companies are demonstrating flexibility to grantee needs. The data showed 65% of the corporate respondents offered to change grant purposes, to redirect funds to most immediate needs. Definitely companies are also broadening their philanthropic strategy with 52% funding new grantees. This level of commitment, in my mind, can serve as a model for what is needed to drive progress on the SDGs. And with the world grappling to confront the coronavirus global pandemic, its impact on our lives, the economy, the SDGs may not be top of mind, but the pandemic actually underlines the importance of the SDGs as it lays bare the interconnectedness of our diverse challenges. It exposes important vulnerabilities, I think. So it shows us that humanity's most pressing issues are global. They impact us all, and the solutions need to be global, and they need to be approached from a systems perspective. So I see the SDGs, which are calling for such an approach, very much in line with what we're seeing right now during the pandemic.
Thank you, Kinga. You've certainly made a very strong case for why the SDG giving landscape, tied with the other research of CAF America, brings philanthropy to the forefront.
Can water be the future? Can water change mindsets? Can water raise awareness? And can water save our planet? Can water, it's all about saying, I can. A few years ago, my daughter said, "Daddy, I don't want to drink bottled water anymore." She was serious. The world is set to produce about 500 billion water bottles in 2021. 1 million bottles a minute, 91% of those are not going to be recycled. They're going to end up in the ocean, on the streets and in landfills. They take about 400 years to naturally decompose. About 1 million seabirds, 100,000 mammals are going to die of plastic consumption annually. And my daughter said, if I as a kid can change, then you and as an adult can change. And we can set an example, and we can make a difference. And I told her, I can change. I can raise awareness, and we together, we're going to make a difference. So I created Can Water. Pretty simple, right? Water in a can, H2O in an aluminum vessel. Our aluminum cans are infinitely recyclable, and unlike plastic, aluminum is one of the most recycled materials on Earth. An aluminum can can be recycled and back on the shelf within 60 days. But our company is not just about replacing plastic water bottles with aluminum cans. It's really about taking small steps that when taken together, we can make amazing changes. And that's something that we can all do. We can clean up the environment. We can reduce our personal environmental footprint. We don't need to make big, scary commitments. All we need to do is take small, manageable, incremental steps. Can Water, help us change our world. Reduce plastic, raise awareness, change mindsets. Contact us and find out how you or your company can help us help others make this world just a little bit kinder, cleaner, and safer.
Hi, great to be here at the UN Global Compact. I'm Aaron Meller, co-founder and chairman of Ecopia. Ecopia is an Israeli high-tech company, the pioneer and world leader in robotics for large-scale and ultra-large-scale utility solar plants. Even though every hour the sun beams sufficient energy to provide us for a full year, according to the UN, we're still faced with a major challenge. Over 2 billion people still live under energy poverty. There is no doubt that solar is the solution. Not only it is by far the fastest growing sector in the energy space, but also the scale of the projects are getting larger and larger every year. Meanwhile, large-scale utility solar plants are primarily being built in arid regions, where on the one hand we're seeing optimal radiation, however, a lot of soiling, major dust storms, almost no rain and lack of water. It requires extensive cleaning, which in turn consumes massive water. The amount of water needed to ensure efficient operation is almost impossible to comprehend. Let me just give you an example. A typical large-scale utility solar plant requires over 1 billion liters of water during its lifetime. The scale of solar projects makes manual cleaning an impossible mission, both from operation management as well as from economic perspective. In light of the global water crisis, wasting such vital resource, in our opinion, is neither viable nor moral. Our obligation as a society is to provide humanity both energy and water. There is an ongoing debate over the last few years, which is more important, energy or water? Let me show you a 2-minute clip that discusses this specific question in one of the fastest growing economies the world over, India.
India is growing, and fast. That's why, in the next 7 years, massive solar farms will be built, generating 100,000 megawatts, powering 41 million households, a growth of 2,500%. 79% of solar farms are expected to be built in arid areas, where they are vulnerable to dust and sand. This can reduce efficiency up to 35%. To keep solar panels clean and efficient, 2 litres of water are needed for washing each panel. That's over 15 billion litres every year. Water vital for drinking, agriculture, sanitation and industry. In fact, India is expected to exhaust all available water by 2050. So, what's more important? Energy or water? Without enough energy and water, the economy just can't leap forward. Fortunately, there is a simple solution: enabling maximal power production without using any water. Daily water-free robotic cleaning maximizes efficiency and preserves water for where it is truly needed. This way, production costs are reduced compared to the polluting coal and oil, so the solar industry can continue growing, maintaining the eco-balance required for a sustainable future.
What we offer at Ecopia is the optimal combination of maximize energy productivity and eliminating water spent. Since inception, Ecopia saved well over 6 billion litres of water, and by 2030, we will save over 100 billion litres of water. Our fully autonomous solution cleans well over 10 million solar panels every night without using a single drop of water, without using any electricity. Every morning when the sun rises, your solar site is crystal clean, and we're doing it with a zero environmental footprint. Thanks to Ecopia, Tier 1 energy companies can finally meet their obligations, environmental goals, as well as social responsibility. We have taken the industry into zero water waste, as well as significant scaling up as far as productivity is concerned. With its ability to shut down the economy, have struck all of us. Entire lives have shifted into remote working conditions, and it is now crystal clear that automation is not only here to stay, but also crucial for the solar growth continuity. As the pandemic changes many sectors, solar remains stronger than ever. Numerous countries invest in renewables to speed up the recovery, and we at Ecopia take great pride in being at the forefront of this automation revolution, supporting this green recovery. Over the last 7 years, Ecopia has been one of the pillars of the solar revolution. Until just a few years ago, solar was a privilege of the developed countries, and thanks to companies and technologies like Ecopia, Tier 1 energy companies have managed to penetrate the less developed countries as well as remote regions, achieving grid parity, scalability, and attractive return on investment. John Hofmeister, former president of Shell, said, "The Stone Age did not end because we ran out of stones, and the oil age will end well before we run out of oil." While I cannot agree more with John, a radical change requires nations and government to bring to the table a radical vision along with adoption of technologies that not only protect green energy, but also saves the precious resource of water. One cannot fix one problem by creating another, and one should always take the greenest path possible. As we at Ecopia like to call it, making green energy even greener. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.